Hello, everyone, and welcome to AMS Weather Band's latest webinar, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of a December Tornado Outbreak with John Gordon and moderated by Dr. Ashton Robinson Cook. Now, before we begin, as always, I would like to address some of the guidelines for our webinar today. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A on the bottom of your screen. It's a button to the left of the chat button. Questions for speakers submitted through the chat will not be considered. So if you do have questions that you want addressed, and make sure that the panel, the guest, and the moderator see it, put it on the Q&A option, and we'll try to keep it to just questions in that on that category. We'll have some specific time for questions from the audience after the presentation, or maybe during the presentation, depending upon the flow of things. But yes, now I would like to introduce today's moderator. So thank you, Dr. Cook. Folks, Dr. Ashton Robinson Cook of Little Rock, Arkansas, was born with a passion for severe and extreme weather. He learned firsthand of the perils of severe weather at a very young age. His family lived in a mobile home that was struck by damaging straight-line winds, possibly a tornado, at the age of 3. And this encounter fueled a passion for weather that continues through his career, along with a number of accomplishments, including being the first African-American male to earn a PhD from the University of Oklahoma School of Meteorology. His dissertation involved the role of El Nino La Nina on U.S. tornado outbreaks, and he has since begun work integrating artificial intelligence and advanced statistical methods for weather prediction. Dr. Cook has also been featured in multiple media outlets and professional organizations, including the American Association of State Climatologists, for his research efforts at extended range weather prediction. He enjoys storm chasing as a hobby, as well as football and travel. And with that being said, Dr. Cook, I give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. This is a real honor. I'm about to introduce John. I've been knowing John for about 20 years. My first weather service job was actually as a student intern in the forecast office in Jackson, and that's where I met John. And so to have things kind of run full circle and for us to have kind of cross paths again in this format is a real honor and a treat for me. And we get to also talk about tornadoes, which is something I'm fascinated with. But John has been an operational meteorologist and a meteorologist in an operational setting for over 35 years, and has spanned 2 different federal agencies, both the U.S. Air Force and also the National Weather Service. In the Air Force, he was a flight meteorologist, and he flew several major hurricanes, including Fran in '96, Brett in '99, Isabel in 2003, Francis in 2004, Ivan in 2004, and Katrina in 2005. He's now a meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Louisville, and he covered several key weather events affecting the Kentuckiana region, including the hurricane-like windstorm from 2008, the March 2012 Henryville, Indiana tornado outbreak, the record ice storm of 2009, the Quad State tornado outbreak in 2021, which we'll talk about today, and also the August 2009 Louisville flash flood. So without further ado, I'll pass things on to John, who's going to talk a bit about some of the issues that came about with surveying tornadoes in the wake of the December 2021 Quad State tornado outbreak.
Hey, Ashton, good to see you. And it does indeed go circle. It's kind of like Chris Berman. No one circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. So I have circled, I've known him a long time, so I appreciate you having me. So I'm going to give 2 talks today, folks. This is high energy. If you've eaten too much for lunch, this is the right talk you came to, okay? So we're going to talk about one of the big events, right? Everyone thinks their event is the biggest. So when you have an event in December, just before Christmas, when we typically almost have 0 tornadoes in the state, we're talking about a big impact event. So as the computer models continue to get better and better, this is the type of event we have got to go 100% all in and do the best job with the newest tools, the newest technology. And then the second part of my talk, folks, is how to do a survey, which unfortunately I've done too many of these. So we're going to get into this here. So let me share my screen. And we're going to hit, Evan, which one am I going to hit? WG. Thank you, share. Just 1 second, folks. Can you see that, Ashton?
Not yet, but give it a second here. We'll see if the screen comes up. It says it started screen sharing, so it should be here in just a few seconds.
What am I doing, Kevin? You're good. Are we up?
Not quite yet, at least not on my screen.
Your screen sharing.
Is it possible you may need to enter the slideshow? Possibly.
We're coming up again. We're try it again.
There we go. We got it.
Okay, we're in. Thank you. That's Kevin. He's the main guy. I just live here. Without him, nothing works. Okay.
Thanks,
So
Kevin.
let's get into this. So if you want to be interactive, this is your opportunity. Go to pollevv.com. That's POLLEV.com. And that's Randy Graham, the head of Science Services Division of the Central Region, RGRAHAM 936. Or you can just text Randy. Randy's waiting for you at $9.99. I'm just joking. Anyway, send Randy the thing, and we're going to get in. This will pop up on a bunch of the polling questions. This is highly interactive. I want you to see what you think. So, all right. So this event, this is going into December 10th, 11th on Wednesday. In our area forecast discussion, one of the things that we really like is the EFI, the Extreme Forecast Index, and the thing called the shift of tails. So that's one of the great things of the European model. And that's one thing we key on. We look for anomalies, departures, anything with the, I love what Rich Crum used to do at State College, all that ensemble stuff, and look at departures and look at these high anomalies. There's data screaming at you, okay? When you see something highly abnormal, you need to look at it. So that's one of the events, the key coming into the event. And we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Bowling Green tornado. Everyone knows the Mayfield storm. The Mayfield storm started in northeast Arkansas. There were 3 main supercells. That one went from eastern Arkansas and over there in western Tennessee, and then came into Mayfield, Dawson Springs, and actually died in my far west side of my counties and died. The second one formed in western Tennessee and then went up and hit Bowling Green, the 3rd biggest city in the state of Kentucky. So this is not a pure supercell, and it's not a QLCS. I call it a hybrid, and we recognize this in this area. If you look really carefully, there's almost 3 areas of rotation with a forward flank, RFD, notch, and pendant in 2 or 3 different areas. So we get into our NWS chat and we try to tell folks, hey, it's coming. You need to be prepared. So we're real proactive with our warnings. So if this polling works, I see people are voting. So there's a miracle. Oh, miracle. So which one is going to produce? So we had a bunch of events like this going into the event. This is when we had some a lid. We had a little bit of sin on the front end. So you look at one product, you don't know. I mean, you can go back and forth on A and B. This is just one image, and that's a thing I want you to say. When you're looking at your favorite radar app, don't look at just one thing, okay? We are looking at multiple areas of a storm, and the mesoanalysis is still number 1. Trump's radar. Your environment is everything. Without your environment, radar means zilch show, okay? So don't just say, I see a hook, it has to be a tornado. Not necessarily. All right. So we'll get back to that. The answer actually was A. So we're being proactive in the chat. You read this. It says it has extensive history. This is the Mayfield storm. If it holds together, this is one of the strongest storms to impact us in nearly a decade. I cannot understate how serious of a situation this is. Have gone ahead and issued a very long range tornado warning in advance of the storm. A lot of people are going to parties. It's one of those Friday nights in December. What do people do? They go to Christmas parties. People are not thinking severe weather. We were trying to beat the drums. This is going to be bad, and it's going to be at night. Nighttime tornadoes, not good. And it's an incredible, dangerous situation. So we try to put heads up. We put out a lot of tweets, Paducah did, Springfield, Missouri, St. Louis, Memphis, and Nashville. Different ways to receive the warnings, whether you're on Android or you're on a iPhone. And we try to give really good lead times. Look at that mess, okay, on radar. That is not a pure anything. It's a hybrid of cells with a lot of rotation in it. And we had to try to put out a good lead times, 50 minutes ahead of time to let people know it's coming. It's not if it's coming, it is coming. So another good thing of this event is the real long time lead times, I know saved lives. I still lost 17 people in my area. I think about them every day. All right. And I think, what can we do? One of the things I plan to do is work with the Paducah office and the mayor of Mayfield. She's a hoot. She's great. And we're going to try to do something. It's probably impossible, but we're going to really try to work with the mayor as kind of our spokesperson to help educate builders and building codes about spending maybe $500 to $1,000 on new home construction. And you might just save your life by putting in some bolts, nuts, screws, braces, and supports for these homes. This lady in Bowling Green said she heard the warning. She grabbed 6. I met her. This is not a innuendo. I talked to this lady and hugged her. I'm surprised I didn't get COVID. I hugged about 500 people down there and grabbed 6 of her kids, crammed them in the bathtub and mattress. The bathroom right there, you see in that picture, is the only thing that was standing. Nothing else. So she gave me a big hug for saving her kids. I said, well, you saved your kids. We just told you about the warning. You took action. Thank you. So we're real proactive in this office about getting information out, where we're surveying. This was an interactive map made. Andrea made this in our office and let people know where we're going day after day after day. I saw Mark Fox the other day on Norman, all the things they were doing in Oklahoma City. And you see the one that goes in Ohio County, the northern one, that's part of Mayfield. We weren't sure how far it went. It actually toured maybe 50 miles east of where it died in Ohio County. The second one, the middle one, is the Bowling Green tornado, or became tornadoes. And then the third one actually went in our southeast. That was the end of that one, thank goodness. One of the things I believe in is students. If you're a student on your call, you're making a good decision. You're the future. I got about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. All right, I'm old, and you are the future. So you see that picture with the man in yellow? That's me with the students. I'm going out there, showing them how to do surveys. They gave up their winter Christmas break, all right? They were out with me 6-7 days. You see the chicken farm on the bottom left, and the DAT points. The DAT crashed, some of you might remember. There was a lot of people in the DAT, and the DAT couldn't handle it anymore. But we were out there trying to figure out where to go, what to do, look at the damage. And one thing that's important on this event is the sun angle is terrible in December. So it doesn't get light till 7:25 to 7:30, and it gets dark at 4:25, 4:30 Central Time. So it was one bathroom break, one eat thing, do it all at once. You need to go take other breaks. That's your problem. I'm giving myself one all day long, and I ran hard, and the sun was going down. I'm like, don't go down, please. So drones, let's see if this works. Here we go, Kevin. So God willing, you'll see we have a drone at the Weather Service in Louisville, and that's a big help. And this is the industrial Trans Park on the north side of Bowling Green. It was very interesting. You could see in the drones from a couple of the images where there was definitely a multi-vortex tornado. Most of the damage in the Bowling Green area, quite honestly, in a lot of subdivisions was onesies and twosies, but there was one funnel in the main funnel, one. I measured it 33 yards wide in a field several times, and where it hit looked like that. Now, why was one funnel that dominating in a multi-vortex tornado? I do not know. But clearly, where it hit, not good. Very bad. And that's one thing the future will decide. Another bad thing is vehicles. We've got to do a better job to get people out of vehicles. Okay? The outrunning, maybe it's Twister. I don't know what the heck it is. But we got to get people out of vehicles. Because if you're in a vehicle in either of these cars, it's not good. That's unsurvivable on the left. And I see this over and over. So we got to do a lot more messaging on that. So I want you to look at this map. That's the history from 1950 to 2020. That's how many tornadoes we had in the state. Most of them are in the far west, right? And then we have an event like this. You know, anomalous doesn't even begin to describe this. All right, the word anomalous doesn't even scratch the surface, quite honestly. All right, that's the Creekwood subdivision. In the second part of the talk, we're going to talk about the rating and the whole thing, but that's what I went down to. I didn't really know where to go when I showed up at 4 in the morning that Saturday morning. All I heard is there's damage everywhere. Well, damage everywhere is useless. All right, that doesn't help anyone, you know. But we watched some videos. One of our guys, Brian, looked at a bunch of videos over and over and over in Bowling Green and saw power flashes. Power flashes, we all know what that means. So I headed to Bowling Green that morning. I called the emergency manager, who I've known a long time, Ronnie Pearson, and I said, Ronnie, what's going on? He said, John, it's bad. I said, okay, how bad? He said, I have fatalities. I said, well, I haven't heard anything in the news. He said, that's intentional. Don't know the history of that. That's what he wanted. He's in charge, not me. So I said, I'm heading that way. Take me to the worst damage. So one of his guys took me out, and that's what I saw. And as you're going to see in a minute, we're going to look at the survey process, and there's more to this than just looking. Obviously, that's bad, right? We can all agree that's not good. But it's the survey process that Tim Marshall and gang have started with the EF looks at more structural integrity. Structural integrity is the rating, okay? Wind, Fujita came up and moved things way into the future, way in the future in 73. And then Marshall has taken us to the next level. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. So if you can vote, the total path length of the previous tornado since 1950 alone is 32 miles. The total path is how many on December 10th, 11th? And I'll give you a second to vote. I know this is just a guess, but what the heck? Jeopardy. I don't have the music, unfortunately. But anyway, I'll give everyone 10 more seconds. All righty, I think I will hit the button. Well, it didn't want to give me the answer. Well, the answer is 142. All right, 142. For all you got to see, give yourself a pat in the back. All right. This is my rant. Here's my quick rant there, Ashton, is, I mean, I was just viciously attacked on social media. I brought engineers in from WKU, Western Kentucky University. They came with me, engineering. One guy, his dad was a builder. He was a framer. So this guy was a structural and mechanical engineer. So we went into this area called the Creekside subdivision, and we looked at the 7 homes that looked worse than all the other homes. Why were these 7 homes almost down to the level? And why were none of the other homes? So we looked at things and found out about anchor bolts that are supposed to be in the center of the cinder blocks, but they were on the edges. We looked at the mortar at the base of the joists, and they're supposed to be completely around. A lot of them were only a quarter to a third around. The nailing pattern is supposed, the industry standard, I always love this, the industry standard. The industry standard is 16 inches. I saw some that were 42 inches. I go on and on and on. But this part, here's Jimmy, good old Jimmy. Some of these ratings are suspect. It's like they're too afraid to give out higher ratings. Scale needs to be fixed or get different survey crews in out there. Thank you. Remember that old line from a movie, sir, may I have another? Well, thank you, Jimmy. Let's see, the F4, F5, only an EF5 can wedge a tornado last 200 miles. Tim Marshall's the one who rated Mayfield. That's Paducah's area. I mean, you're telling the expert of experts. I'm not an expert. I do the best I can. I'm very trainable. I listen. I try to listen quickly. And Tim Marshall's the one who rated Mayfield. And they went after Marshall, for heaven's sake. And I think that's the last slide on this one. That just shows you a before and after of the Ohio County. That's the end of the Mayfield. That old, I don't know, 1800 style home has lost its top, so to speak. So Ashton, give me a thumbs up if I move to the right next talk, okay? I hit slideshow. And Ashton, tell me if we're live. Are we live?
Not yet. I still see the
Yeah.
Ohio County, Kentucky
Hit this?
building.
Just 1 second.
Hit it again.
Which one?
The AMX.
Okay, hit share.
Yep.
All right, are we up?
Not yet. Not quite.
Try now.
Not quite. It's still seeing a black screen that says that you started screen sharing. There we go. All right, we got it.
All right.
How to
Once
conduct-
again, Kevin to the rescue. Okay, so I'm not an expert. I have surveyed since, I don't know, mid-90s. I've come a long way from digital cameras around your neck and gazetteers on your lap and driving totally unsafe to the DAT. I love the DAT. I love the survey 123. I love the new GIS mapping. So we're going to go through this. Samantha, our Miklowitz, our pathways, who helped me make this talk. And this is what I was looking at that morning. I told you earlier about Bowling Green and the flashes. If you look really carefully, you can see it. But it takes a little time and a little fading in and out to find the funnel that hit Bowling Green, one of the 3 that hit Bowling Green. So have you or your family members been impacted by a tornado? I pray that you haven't, okay? It's nice in a field in Kansas with Dorothy, but it's not nice. And we keep building, right? We keep building and building and building. We build where there used to be nothing. And if you keep building, someone's going to get hit, okay? Eventually, someone's going to get hit. And we're going to get hit more. Have you, anybody been on a weather survey? I take everyone. I take students. I take the media. I take professors. I take a herd of people, you know, but I warn them. I don't know when we're going to eat. I don't know when we're going to go to the bathroom. I don't know when we're going to get a break. You know, maybe you need to wear Depends. I don't know. We're going to be out there a long time. All right. Long time. I run hard. Okay. So that's Bowling Green. There's your rotational couplet. Almost looks like 2 supercells in the same main parent part of that line. Which radar app do you use? And if there's one I didn't put on there, please don't be offended. Don't send Ashton a nasty note. You know, I just picked a few. All right. You know, personally, I like all 3. All right. I don't know who other is. I'll put a note in the chat and I'll read it. All right. There's the power flash I mentioned. That's a good clue. And there's the maps. So the interactive maps is how we start off. So the crew, after the event's over, we start getting maps out of where we're going. So the media knows where we're going. We got to communicate. One of the best lessons for the youngsters on this call on AMS. You got to communicate. If you're not going to communicate, you're not going to do well in this field. How many GIS courses have you taken? GIS is in. Fortran is out. And GIS is the way to go. Take a class, even if you're an old person like me. GIS is the new thing. It will really help you. All right, we'll move on. Coding languages are important. These are just some tips. I'm doing this interspersed, Ashton, just to give them some things to think about to make yourself, because Stephen Covey, the leadership guru, says you want to be green and growing, not brown and rotting. All right, so play offense, not defense. Right? Python is definitely in the weather service. Definitely helps. Okay. All right. So let's start off on the survey. Here we go. I show up at 4 in the morning. I was out the door at 5:45 maybe. This is the stuff I took. So I got a gazetteer. You think, why is this old man taking a gazetteer? I use my iPhone. Well, guess what? Most of the cell towers were down. Internet, not good. So you got to have backups. You got to have a plan, Stan. So I bring the drone stuff. I have the Fujita book. I call the little Bible you see in the white binder there on the right. MiFi is good because I can get some internet. I got to get those points out. Everyone's looking. Where is he? What is he doing? Yeah, I'm playing solitaire down here by myself. And of course I'm not. We had no internet, you know. All right, so you arrive down there. I'm on the phone with county officials. I did multiple radio interviews, play offense, not defense, met with the emergency manager and his team. And right away, the first thing I got to do within 15 minutes is I get to the worst damage. I got to give them something. I always love the alleged. You know, when someone shoots someone on TV, allegedly somebody shot somebody. No, allegedly there's a tornado. So I got to go out there and say, yes, it's a tornado. And I always go one less than I'm thinking. All right. So if I'm thinking high end 3, it's at least a high end 2. I give them a bone, the media. So they got something. And I said, I've only been here 15 minutes. I'll have updates throughout the day. Okay. So that's really important. Communicate, get the word out, right? So that's that terrible subdivision in the Creekside subdivision. So that one to the left, where the guy in red, that's Jason Wilson. He's a professor at WKU. So in this particular one, you have a mortar that's not completely around the joists. Your nailing pattern was in the 30-inch range. You actually the quality of the nails was something that was not maybe necessarily the best. So there's all these little factors that go into this. So him and I went, and he showed me a lot of stuff. And 6 of the 7 homes, I knew what happened. At least I thought I knew what happened. There was one I wasn't sure on, and it bothered me and bothered me and bothered me. And finally, we believe that one of the first houses that was not up to code, so to speak, blew out and hit the garage of this house that was better built. And I think it literally impaled that house. Like the house just went this way, hit the garage, which is a weak point anyway, and then the whole house just blew out. That's my theory. As you can see, look at the cars again. Not good. This is the enhanced Fujita's book. They're adding some. They're modifying one. I'm on the EF committee for the trees. We're changing that completely. You're going to have a big improvement on the trees. The speeds are going to be better. We're going to look at species. We're going to look at all types of factors. Not this. The winds are way too high on the trees. Way too high. Anyway, look at this. You got everything from small barns, outbuildings, residences, mobile homes, apartments, and down Bowling Green. So we had strip malls. That's number 10. We had some low-rise buildings, 17. We had metal building systems, 21. We had the warehouse, 23, 22, a lot of 22s. Those service station canopies do not do well with big tornadoes at all. They had the electrical transmission lines, freestanding towers, and of course the trees. Flagpoles do not do well with tornadoes, number 26, that's for darn sure. And of course, barns and outbuildings on 1 and 2. So each one, for those that don't know, you see the picture here. This is item number 2. That's 1 or 2 family residences. So let's just go through that. So you have number 2, loss of roof covering less than 20%. Number 3, broken glass in the window. So let's look at that one, number 3. So if you have broken glass in windows, your median, the middle, the exposure is 96 miles an hour. Lower end, depending how well the house is built or constructed, would be 79. Better built, 114. Now look at that right there. The EF0 to EF1, 86 to 87. So you're already 0 to 1 between 79 and 86, or 96 rather. And then EF2 starts at 113. So it's kind of, you have a big range right there, just on the item 3. And for all the people who sent me hate mail, look at 10. Destruction of engineered and well-constructed residence. Slabs swept clean. Well, well-constructed is the key. Okay? So anyway, here's one. Well, the home just disappeared. That stinks. Let me do that again. Here we go. I'll go slow. Here we go. Try to look at that quickly. Well, sorry. I don't know why that's doing it. You have a well-built home that was hit by a tornado. What do you rate it? So you got to look. You just can't say, I see the entire house shifts off the foundation. Or if the most walls still remaining. Well, it depends how they're attached. How are they attached to both the base and the roofing structure? All right. So I met a guy a few weeks ago, April 5th tornado in Perry County, Indiana. He put in 100 extra hurricane strap braces on his roof. Now that shows to me, and I looked at it, base footers were 6 inches of concrete. And so if you put in more support from the base to the top, the rating, you've got to really look at the construction. The construction is everything, and the structural integrity. There's been tornadoes, folks. There was one in Tennessee years ago in Gallatin. And at first the weather service, the weather service is horrible and they don't know what they're doing and blah, blah, blah. And then one of my buddies was doing the survey, pointed out all these construction flaws, and then they went after the builder. And the builder was cutting corners like crazy. So just be very careful. I'm not saying my ratings are perfect, but I can tell you, I put my heart, my soul, everything I had into that Bowling Green rating. And I talked to some experts that are better than me, and we all kind of agreed right at the very end of 165. At most, we would have went to a 170. So it's like people who tell me the difference between 52 degrees and 57 degrees. I don't know if I can tell the difference. Okay, we'll move on. Well, I don't know why it's taking the picture away. Sorry, guys, but you have an old barn, badly damaged. How do you rate it? Well, if the darn thing's looking like a piece of junk from the late 1890s, you cannot say just because it's destroyed, it's an 8. DOD 8. You can't. Well, I don't know why it's doing that, Kevin, but anyway, there's a picture. You see it briefly, and then it disappears. Okay, well, in that case, it's not healthy. When you have an unhealthy tree, go low, 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 low. Rotted, it's in a floodplain. Certain trees like silver maples, terrible. Terrible. Bradford pears, I don't care if there's 100 Bradford pears down. They're not deep structure roots. When you see a giant oak or a hickory or something, a real big hardwood, and they're down, that's different, right? So once again, you can't just say, well, there's a tree down. Well, big deal. What kind of tree? Was it maybe there's termites, carpenter ants, Who knows? All right. Well, it continues to do this to me. I don't know why. Anyway, an interstate light pole has been twisted and collapsed from a tornado. How do you rate it? Well, you got to look at it, how it's bent, and what's it made of, okay? Not every interstate light pole is made of the same material, okay? So you got to look at it. I mean, I saw one in Louisville a few weeks ago. This light pole in this really high-end subdivision was really a plastic light pole. It was not a big, well-constructed light pole, so you got to really look at it. Okay, so you go into survey 1, 2, 3, and I'm watching my time. I'm good on time, Ashton. So, all right, so what is it? The first button up there is the camera button, your friend. So you hit the camera button, and what do you want to do? You want to take a picture. So you take a picture of whatever it is. And then it says, is it a tornado? Is it thunderstorm wind damage? I don't do tropical wind, so I'm avoiding that one. I actually done a hail survey, okay? March 2nd, 2012, the Henryville, West Liberty, Cyersville tornadoes. We were told that Columbia, Kentucky, the Walmart was just destroyed. It was destroyed. It was gone. My guy went down there and they got hit with softball hail. So we had to kind of create the other. That's how the other button actually started, believe it or not. Anyway, you got to get the right date. What is it? I showed you the 28 damage indicators. You click the one you want. And then what is the damage? Everything from visible damage, shingle damage, part of the roof is destroyed, what percent of the roof, the walls standing, not standing, whatever. And then based on that, the winds will automatically adjust for you from the median exposure to the lower bound to the upper bound. And then you got to look. I really try to never rate one point without looking at the surroundings. Okay. So if I see no trees down next to a building's destroyed, how can I make a big number when I see no other damage? So I usually walk around for 15 minutes before I take the first picture, because I'm very careful of not sending a point unless I'm confident of something. And then it still gets quality controlled here at the office. All right, they QC the points. So it's really good to slow down, smell the coffee, and make sure you know what you're seeing. All right, so you get the wind speeds. Then you got the damage direction. I really like that on my phone. One of the best things on the iPhone is the little compass thing. So I hit the compass thing, and because you get really turned around when you're in the country. I mean, big time. You got roads like this, and you're on all these roads, and all of a sudden you're like, where is north, south, east, and west? Where am I? And I hit the little compass button, real nice. And that helps me, you know? So I get my direction. That's also a really good thing on tornadoes. On like a QLCS, if you're doing a QLCS, on a QLCS, you usually only get north, northeast to east, southeast. Very rarely do you get a west component, okay? But that really helps you. And the drone shows you things you can't see in the ground, just can't see. Drone shows you a perspective, and it's very good to have a perspective. Okay, if you have any injuries or deaths, most of the time we don't know because it's evolving. And I talk to the emergency manager, and sometimes they don't want to release the data. That's what the data eventually looks like. Now, the points you see, even though I send them, you may not see them. You're like, what is the Weather Service doing? And well, they got to QC them. They got to QC those points. And we're really careful because I think we accidentally sent 1-4, and that caused an uproar. So there's a button in the DAT that they've created, which I very much like and I endorse, called the EF3 button, EF3 plus button. That means there's a button that might be higher that needs to be looked at by someone from the QRT team. I'm on the QRT team now, the quick response team, but I always will still let someone else look at it just to make sure. We want these right. We want these right for climatology. We want these for historical. We want these for FEMA grants, whatever it is, researchers, we want them right. You know, we are not trying to amp up numbers and hype and all this nonsense. I'm watching my time, Ashton, so I'm good. All right, so they came up with this crazy acronym called the PSAC, the Post-Event Storm Assessment Coordinator. They're busy. That's a person that stays back in the office, and that is a busy, busy shift. You want a busy shift, become the PSAC. So you're talking to all the crews. You can have up to 4 crews, depending on the type of event. You're chatting with partners. You're sending in local storm reports, delayed reports, getting new reports. You're sending out the PNSs, the public information, narrative statements. You're creating web pages, social media posts. And then we create, which I like, the Google tracking form you see on the right side of the slide. All the things that have been done, they're updated shift to shift, what needs to be done, what needs to be added, what do we need to do? We got to send a note to our regional headquarters, let them know what's going on. It's a busy shift, very busy. And for the college kids on this call, getting a job, being an organized person, having GIS skills, being very savvy from everything from the web to social media, all those things pay off big time. Oh, here's the criticizing. I don't think there's any bias. I've just never heard of a house getting slabbed. I just want to know what the structural issues are, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we don't know anything. So have you ever criticized the official rating survey? Be honest. I have. I plead guilty. And it's hard to throw rocks in a glass house, but but there are some that I do scratch my head. But be careful because you don't know all the facts. Nor do I. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Okay, I think I just have a few more slides. All right, the jockeying going on. Okay, all right. Where's the one that upsets me? Oh, there's the bottom one. Jimmy, there's Jimmy again. Scale needs to be fixed or get a different survey crew in there. Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I showed you that one. I'll show it real quick again, but this just shows, look at the metal roofing structure, how these bolts were sheared on the bottom right of that first building. Most of this left side did okay then, but then that small funnel hit this part of the next structure, sheared those bolts, but there were little scrub trees right next to it that were fine. Very strange. We'll just move on. We've seen this. All right, so we get the preliminary. We always say preliminary, okay? Everyone control yourself. And we get out that information as best as we can. I like these little short little messages, date, time, rating, top wind speed, path length, path width, etc. And I take the students out. I'm a believer in the future. You're the future. And we need more meteorologists. We need motivated. We need folks to want to go out and do this stuff. This is, I'll tell you one thing about surveys. It's an emotional toll. Okay. It is not easy to see this kind of damage. I was there when EMS workers were rescuing, seeing if someone was in a house. I've been there with coroners. I've seen 2x4s through cows. I've seen all kinds of stuff. And it's not easy to come home at night. And the families, the devastation. I went to a hotel that one night. I saw little kids in their hotel room with their parents. They put up a little Christmas tree. They'd lost everything. So they're just terrible. They're just these big events, whether it's Tuscaloosa, whether it's those big tornadoes recently near Ottumwa, Iowa, those Iowa tornadoes. This is serious stuff. So I thank you. Ashton, I'm going to turn over to you and you just fire the questions at me, okay?
Awesome. It looks like we have a handful already in Q&A, and then I actually have a couple too, but I think I'll hold back and let the Q&A ones go first. So John, this first one is from Bob Goldhammer. John, did you gather any data on how the emergency managers responded to the alerts you were giving out starting on the 8th?
Yeah, we did. Thank you. Thanks, Bob, for that question. So we were doing conference calls. I think we did I think we did 3, which is rare. I think we did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we knew there was going to be a severe weather event. All right. Week out, it almost looked like severe weather and flooding. The middle of the week kind of looked like more of a QLCS setup. And as we got into Thursday into Friday, it looked like that I'm not talking about Paducah. Paducah was a completely different animal in Western Tennessee. Eastern Arkansas, Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee was a supercell event. The question was, we had some sin and how that low level inhibition was going to play out was the key to that event. So we told them we thought we had about a 4 to 6 hour window that could be achieved before the QLCS came through. So that even shows you on a big event, even though we're playing it up, we're still uncertain on the fine details and the CAMS models can go in. So they were messaging big time. There were events closed. One thing you have to be careful of, I've learned, you get older and you learn a little bit, but I've learned that, well, what do you think we should do? Do we think we should cancel the Christmas pageant? I'm like, that's your decision. I'm giving you the information, you make that call. But yeah, I think they did respond, but there was still this angst, Bob, in your question, that people, it's Christmas time, the holidays are coming, we have Christmas. I met several people. Listen, I had 2 or 3 drinks at this party and I went to bed. And I'm like, and then next thing you know, I hear a roar. Not good.
Okay, I'll go ahead to the next question here from Rick Halterman. Is it worth responding to the social media trolls to educate them on why the damage survey process takes so long to get the numbers right?
Yeah, thanks, Rick, for that question. I really like what Norman's been doing lately. I'm going to steal what Norman has done. They've been putting out notes, be patient, surveys take time, and they list all these little things, funny, including going to the bathroom, all these things that take time during the survey process. I've read a lot of articles on trolls. I gave a talk years ago at a conference about what to do about people that send some nasty notes to you. We try to educate and not engage. And there's a point where you cut it off. You answer one question and you move on. But does it upset you? Yes, it does. It shouldn't upset me. And I'm still a work in progress learning not to get upset. But we try our very best. I mean, I had engineers with me. So I went to bed with my head high that we had done our best.
Okay, got another question from Rick Halterman. Do you have anyone to help you with social media and broadcast media communications during the survey?
Yeah, that's a good question. We almost need a PIO to deal with everything. When I'm on the survey, I've always struggled. Do I do the media interview? Do I keep doing the surveying? So I try to do it all at once and I probably don't get anywhere. We do the social media. I generally put out, I call the office. I'm going to rate it such and such. This is what I've done so far. just put it out, and they'll let me know if there's a lot of heat going on somewhere. You know, and I had other guys too. Well, this says real quick, Ashton, is I had guys from the Mayfield tornado that went into Ohio County, and they were calling me, "Hey, John, I'm close to 4. Can you talk to me?" So I'd stop. I want to help my guys. None of my guys had ever done high-end 3, and I've done several 3s and 4s, sadly. And I'm like, show, and they would text me if I could find 2 bars. When I saw 2 bars, I go, woohoo, I have 2 bars, you know, and I'd say, let me see those pictures. And they do describe it. I know Brian in Ohio County, Dan in Taylor County, send me those pictures, and I would do that. But yeah, social media is just a quagmire. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we got one more here from Bob Goldhammer. John, I have no doubt you were very informative. You're doing very informative briefings for the EMS, but what did they do within their community? That seems to still be a critical missing link in the warning process. Some do a lot, but others, and then 3 ellipses there.
Yeah, every county, it's like I always tell people, like the NFL. Okay, the NFL, every team runs the offense differently, defense differently, special teams differently, weight training, dietitian, whatever. So every county is completely different. You know, we give them the most information. I think it's kind of funny. The state director always likes when I do the calls. He says he can say tell by the sound of my voice, the tone of my voice, how bad it is, which I'm not sure I know what that means. But, you know, I always tell people this is one of those 1% events. You know, somewhere, I was very confident, somewhere between Jonesboro, Arkansas, Nashville to Louisville, someone was going to get it bad. That we knew, but how it evolved, even that evening was unclear. Now, Paducah was 100% clear. It was going to hit Paducah's area. There's just no question. Western Tennessee, no question. We had a bit of a problem because of the environment. But getting back to Bob's question, every county is completely different. In Kentucky, we have what's called a county judge executive. They're kind of the judicial person in charge of the county. Then you have the emergency manager, and they can change depending on who the county judge is. I've seen ones that have been there 25 years. You're gone because my cousin-in-law so-and-so is now going to be the EMA. And, you know, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. And I can't help that, but we are trying to raise awareness on big events. We really are. Absolutely.
So I have a question here that's, and then we have 3 more other comments in the Q&A, but I just want to ask this. So I know there's a lot of banter on social media. I happen to be a forecaster also, and I don't look at social media in the wake of certain events because I already know there's enough internal discussion about how we could do things better because we all have our jobs. So I don't need anyone else's outside input to tell me what I did wrong. But there's some credentialed, qualified, respected meteorologists out there who have some questions about the F4 versus F5 debate. And my question comes about in this, you know, are we underrating certain tornadoes or things like that? Is are our surveying patterns different than what they used to be? How's that process changed? It seems like we have a team of engineers on every high-end violent tornado or suspected violent tornado that happens nowadays, and that wasn't always the case, it doesn't seem. So what do you think about that? I mean, do you think we're underrating? Do you think we're overrating in some cases?
I'll answer this with a series.
Have our procedures changed enough to kind of answer some of this?
Great question. Really well thought out question. So let's go through this. Grazoulis thinks that we have not had an F5, and I can't remember what's the last F5. Do you remember? It's been a while.
2013, I believe.
Okay, 2013, 10 years. And he's a little annoyed by this. I don't know if you're there, Tom, but that's one thing. Number 2, I hesitate to say this, but you asked a good question, so I'll say this in the nicest way. One of the reasons engineers and the QRT code became about was because of the La Plata tornado. which I can't remember what year that is because I'm old. I'm thinking 99, 2000. I don't remember. You can look it up. Someone can tell me.
I want to say 2003. I remember it. It
All
was
right, then that's when it
pretty
was.
highly
All right.
initially.
Okay. La Plata is, there was a lot of controversy on La Plata and the rating. I'm not going to get into the story, but that originally was rated at a higher level. And after that, things changed a bit. Then you had the EF committee start, and was that 7 or 8? 2007, 2008. I can't remember. But that has been another thing. So in an effort to have in some of the EF committee came up with this thing, the QRT team. So on a higher event, I don't have a problem on a big event having an engineer with me personally. You know, I agonize on some tornadoes, quite honestly. You know, there was a tornado that I think I overrated in 2012 because a bunch of cars were moved. There is nothing in the cars, nothing. So I kind of regret not going, you know, 111, 112 EF1 versus my EF2. So you learn, even someone who's done it a long time, I learn, and I try not to make the same mistake twice. And I mean, we're talking 5 miles an hour, but 2, when you hear 2 versus 1, 3 versus 2, whatever, should engineers go out with us on big ones? I think having someone who's done one is a good thing. I do. Have surveys changed? No, each office, I don't know. We all go through the same training. I can't speak. I can just tell you that Tim Marshall, you rock, because you can send him a note on Facebook. Tim, look at this picture right now. And he'll send a note to you, which is amazing. He doesn't even charge me. I just buy him Slurpees or something. But that's a kind of a nice thing. I have no ego out there. If you can show me something that make me think and come up with a better rating, I'm in. Did I answer your question?
It does to an extent, but we've got 8 minutes left and we've got 8 comments. So
Bring it in.
I'll go ahead and just move on to the next ones here. And
All
then,
right.
John, maybe we can talk a bit offline about some of this too. But
Sounds good, buddy.
there's 3 comments I want to relay that are all positive. Bob Goldhammer, please don't retire anytime soon. We need your voice. Krista Ledbetter, not a question, but I've been on many NWS Louisville briefings, and I think they're very informative. I do remember these calls in particular. And then also Krista Ledbetter, please don't retire yet, John. My surveying experience with you as a student has been very educational.
Well,
So that's good. And then we'll go back to another question. Advice on any other supplies items to bring on surveys besides the ones you already mentioned? Maybe thick sole shoes or other forms of communication.
Yes, I should have said
in the
that.
events of overloaded towers.
I should have said that. Yes.
Gillespie.
I should have said that. Thank you. Yeah, you got to dress. Okay. What happens the day after usually? It's colder. Okay. So you need some warm clothing. Often parking is just a pain in the rear end. So you park because it's mud. So you got to wear some, I usually bring 2 pairs of shoes. I usually bring one that's got some steel toes. There's nails all over the place. 2x4s embedded in the word impale, I always think of Vlad the Impaler, but there's impalement of boards into the ground. Sometimes you can't pull them out. If you were there, forget it. Nails and 2x4s and power lines. And so you want to dress warm. I think gloves. I've been out in the snow. I've surveyed in snow, for heaven's sakes, and the wind can blow. The internet's not good. So having a MiFi is a good thing. Hat, you got to cover your head. You're out for long periods. They all laugh at me because I go wandering. Okay. I usually come in pairs of 2. One person will fly the drone. While I go start walking, I talk to a resident, to another resident, to another house, to another house. And once in a while, I'm like, I've kind of missed, but where am I? I have to figure out how to get back to where I started. And clothing is really good. And situational awareness is part of the survey. Never, ever step on a power line. I don't care. They say the line is dead. I don't trust anybody. All lines, in my opinion, are alive. I'm not going to be the next character on Bugs Bunny getting zapped, okay? I mean, I'm telling you, you have to really watch where you walk. So bring a couple pairs of shoes, extra socks. I've walked in mud where my whole bottom, I'm like, I got to get new everything below my ankle. So it's nice to have some cleaner clothes.
All right, we'll move on to Joy Bedenhausen. Not a question, but a comment. Thank you for your analysis on this event. I'm a broadcast meteorologist and was working in Waterloo, Iowa during this event. We, of course, dealt with numerous tornadoes that day, but it's interesting to learn how others are affected by the same system. And then from Patrick Gatlin, what is the good, quote, good, bad, and ugly of social media relative to surveying 20 years ago?
That's the
Some
best
of this was
question.
covered
You get
already,
the award. That's the best question award right there, Ashton.
Oh, yeah.
The good is we get information out quick, right? You get information. You get on your phone. Weather Service rates EF3. Okay, boom. That's cool. The bad, I don't know what they're doing. I haven't received a DAT report in 5 hours. What are they doing? Are they having a long lunch? Well, that's not nice. Ugly is just people. These people are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. Blah, blah, blah. You know, we're going to keep this clean. I have been called words I had to look up. Okay. I don't even know what they meant.
The unfortunate thing about social media is that it seems like people are a little bolder to speak their honest thoughts as opposed to saying that to a person, which they would hardly do. But
they're really tough behind their keyboard, aren't they? They're tough.
Yeah, keyboard warriors. So I got another comment here. You mentioned sometimes preliminary ratings. I've noticed that a fair amount of preliminary ratings are either adjusted upward or stay the same as a final rating. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I've seen that too. So what I try to do, I think I said this earlier, is rate lower initially. So especially when you first get there, you got to get a handle of this. So what I've done over the years, it's taken me a long time to think I figured this out, is to go, take me to the worst damage. Don't take me to any damage. Take me to the worst damage. So that gives you a better handle of what we're up against. I mean, it's pretty obvious. This is no hubris here, okay? It's pretty obvious when you see a tornado. When you see mud spatter on the backside of buildings, when you see insulation up in the trees and metal shadings, not this metal from the barn that this falls, it goes up in the trees and wraps and twists around. You know it when you see it, okay? So right away, you do your little thing. So in Bowling Green, I thought 160-ish when I first got there, but I went 150 just so I can get a better handle, fly the drone, look inside at the foundations, look at the braces, look at the nails, look at all the foundation. Is it attached, not attached? All these things real quick. So I generally try not to have wild number changes. I can't speak to all the other 122 kingdoms. I can only talk about this little hunk of land on the risk board, okay?
All right, we've got just enough time for me to squeeze in one last question for you. I'd like to know your thoughts on the QLCS tornado problem. I think that it's one of the most perplexing and complicated, challenging problems in a warning environment that we face.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on classifying a QLCS tornado that may be relatively weak versus a straight line wind event? How would you discern the two?
Okay, so that's very good. QLCS is most complex part of the whole warning process, no question. All right, I'm the QLCS office, right? I'm the center. And I don't want to be the QLC office, but can't always get what you want. So the deal is this, a QLCS, you can see the circulation, the curvatures, the twisting. Like I said, it's forming on the front flank. So you usually get a northeast component and a southeast component. I will say this, Super Tuesday, 2008, Super Tuesday, there was high end 2, QLCS.
Wow.
I just can't remember the one in Henry County, 2010 or 2011. I made an EF3 QLCS. Never thought I'd do that in my life. Well built by Swiss builders. So most of them, there's no question. James Spann's very vocal on this. I don't know if you're there, James, or not, but QLCS, most of them are zeros and ones. Okay. I don't know what we are supposed to do. They are clearly tornadic. You can see the circulations. They do exist. They're usually short-lived. What are they going to do if they hit Wrigley Field or the Indy 500 or James Spann subdivision? You know, what are we going to do? They're clearly worse than, on the other hand, straight line winds. I mean, we've had 100-mile-per-hour straight line winds. We've had a downburst. Ronald Reagan landed 10 minutes before 130-mile-per-hour downburst at Andrews Air Force Base.
Wow.
So there are clearly things that are much worse than a tornado, you know, with straight line winds, derechos in DC, that big bow echo a few years ago. So it's complex. I don't want to run over time. And if you want to follow me, folks, I'm at Modest Man on Twitter.
Absolutely. It looks like the next two comments are just comments, not necessarily questions, but they're very complimentary. John, this has been an honor. Like I said, I'm really grateful to be able to have moderated this discussion, and thanks to AMS for the platform to be able to discuss these types of topics. And I will see everyone later.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.
All righty. Thank you, John and Dr. Cook. Thank you very much for your presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen that are attending, all webinars will be available to Weatherband members at amsweatherband.org. And if you have any further questions, or if you want to discuss more about the webinar, members are welcome to discuss on the Weatherband Community Forum. And with that being said, thank you again, everybody, for your participation and for stopping by. We'll see you in our next webinar at AMS Weatherband. Have a great day.